Welcome to Impact the World, a podcast from West Park Baptist Church in Knoxville, Tennessee. This is where we discuss topics related to how we can all love God, love people, and impact the world. Here's your host, Tara Hayes.
Hi, I'm your host, Tara Hayes, and we're excited to have you along for today's episode. I'm sitting down again with Jake. Hey, Jake.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Doing really well. A little bit of allergies, but it's life in East Tennessee.
East Tennessee, yeah.
Welcome to Allergy World. Today, we're going to continue our series of discussions about spiritual disciplines.
Mm-hmm.
Today, we're going to hit one that most people will be like, that's a spiritual discipline? It's hospitality.
Hospitality.
It's not usually when you're thinking spiritual discipline's probably not the first one that comes to mind at all.
Think Bible reading, prayer, which we haven't even done yet.
No, we haven't even done the obvious ones yet.
We will get there. We've done Sabbath, we've done silence and solitude, but this one's an important one because, and I want to include it in the spiritual disciplines because the goal is to do things that Jesus did.
Right.
If we want to adopt, or if we want to have the life of Jesus, if we want to look like him, we need to adopt the lifestyle of Jesus. We need to do the things he did. And hospitality was a huge part of his life. Someone pointed out in one of the commentaries I was reading on the book of Luke when we were doing that sermon series here at the church, that in the book of Luke, Jesus is either at a meal, leaving a meal, or going to a meal. He is constantly practicing hospitality. Right. That's what he's doing.
Which I think is interesting because if you think about it, Jesus didn't have, once he is in his earthly ministry, he doesn't have a specific home base, quote unquote. Yeah. So that is kind of something we'll touch on later about hospitality. I think that puts a different spin on it.
Absolutely.
But like you said, it's very important because he was engaged daily in hospitality.
Yes, he was. And so if we're going to be followers of Jesus, Dallas Willard says apprentices of Jesus. Right? That's the goal of what we're doing here. We're trying to do the things he did to look more and more like him. Then hospitality is going to be a big one because he did a lot of it. So that's why we're doing this, and it may feel like it's out of left field, but unbelievably important.
So people might think hospitality, they might be thinking the hotel industry. Okay, that's not it. But so what would be just a general biblical definition of hospitality?
Absolutely, yeah. So we hear that and we think Hilton Hotels or Martha Stewart or whatever, right?
Resorts.
Resorts, the hospitality industry. But the biblical word, when most of the time when you see that word hospitality in your New Testament, it's the Greek word philoxenia. So philo, we can think Philadelphia, city of brotherly love. So philo is love. And then xenia, or so maybe you've heard xenophobia or things like that, it means stranger. So hospitality is simply the love of the stranger. That's what it is.
Wow.
And so not, having, when I think hospitality, the picture I have is Crate and Barrel or whatever, right? These really beautiful people all gathered around the beautiful meal,
your closest friends or family.
Absolutely. Right. Just laughing and just having
eating
the
off
great
your
time.
Fine china.
And that could be, an outpouring of hospitality, absolutely. But that's not what the Bible's talking about when it talks about it. So.
Wow. Yeah. So I think not something you typically think of as a spiritual discipline, but one that is definitely we need to be partaking in and working towards making it a discipline in our lives.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yep. And it is a choice. I'll say that too, right? This is not something, because I think if we think of hospitality as Martha Stewart, we say, well, I'm not gifted that way, right? Like, okay, I can't cook, I can't do this, like whatever. You can come up with plenty of excuses.
Right.
But when you think of it as loving the stranger, and you think of it as just something that Jesus did, that his followers now do, it's not really something that's optional. It's not something that you're gifted in or not gifted in. I mean, Hebrews 13:2 says, do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers.
Wow.
It's not saying, if you're an extrovert, do not neglect to show hospitality. It's follower of Jesus, don't neglect to show hospitality to strangers. 1 Peter 4:9, Peter tells us, show hospitality to one another without grumbling. Okay, that's pretty clear. Also, this is interesting. This is on the list of qualifications for a church elder. Have you ever? So actually, you must be hospitable.
Don't know that I really thought about. I mean, it's funny because I was just recently talking to someone that attends another church, and they're like, "Okay, so what does your church? What's the difference between deacons and elders?" Okay, I will say that when I was talking about elders, I never brought up hospitality.
Well, and I need to check. I don't know if it's on deacons or not. So we can
But
check
the point
that later.
is, I mean, it's there
for leadership.
Whether it is on deacons or yes, as a leader, a believer, you are to be hospitable.
Yeah. So I've heard stories of pastors disqualifying themselves for many things. I've not read a story, really, anytime I can remember, of a pastor being disqualified because he was not hospitable.
Wow.
That says something, right?
Yeah.
But that's all, it's there on the list, right beside being able to teach. Like it's right there.
Wow.
So yeah.
Well, and I think too, being hospitable, two things that I'm thinking about while we're seeing this. Hospitality is not always just a huge event. It can be a quick moment that you are kind to someone. So it doesn't have to be this big, huge thing. And it is the heart of God. I mean, his kindness and his love towards people, that's what, like you've said, that's what we're emulating.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's a good transition because, okay, what is hospitality? It's love of the stranger. That's the easy definition of it. Why should we care? So at this point, why do you keep listening to this? Why should you as a Christian care? Well, we just said, the Bible's clear on it. Yeah. Jesus modeled it. There's plenty of stories. I mean, the one I love the most, I think, is probably Zacchaeus, right? You have this guy who is hated by everyone. He is the sinner of all sinners. He's a tax collector. He's a traitor. He's the Benedict Arnold. I mixed Benjamin Franklin and Benedict Arnold in my head. So
it's an interesting history lesson, Jake.
Benedict Arnold. He's a traitor.
Right.
He has turned away from the Jewish people to help Rome, and Rome's using him as a pawn, but he is getting filthy rich. So everyone, he's not friends with anyone.
No.
And yet Jesus walks into a town, and who does he ask to come get dinner with him? Well, he invites Zacchaeus in. Like, Zacchaeus, it's the one that everyone would have been thinking him, right?
Right.
But that's love of the stranger. And so the Bible is clear that this is, if we're going to follow Jesus, we're apprentice of him. If we want to do the things he did, we do this. So that's number one. Why should we care? Because of that. That's pretty simple. Number two, I think it's because, and you just hinted at this, we have experienced it ourselves.
Right.
Love of the stranger. Well, okay, if you are a Christian, you were at one point an enemy of God. You had rebelled against him. You did not deserve his love. And what did he give you? His love. Like, you were Zacchaeus.
Yeah.
You had rebelled. You were a traitor, and he invited you in. And so we do it out of response to that. And then I'll give this third one. Maybe we can talk about this a little bit. I think in the time in which we live, our current cultural moment, this is more important or as important than ever when we think about the mission of the church. So our mission statement here at the church is love God, love people, impact the world. That's the podcast, Impact the World. How do we impact the world? I think hospitality is going to be a big one. I actually have a book on hospitality called The Simplest Way to Change the World. And I think that's true because we are living in a time, especially here in America, where we're divided. People are turning away from the church. What an opportunity to love the stranger, to invite people in and let them see and experience the love of Jesus. Because the thing is, people typically get loved into the faith, not argued into the faith. And
Amen.
Hospitality is a way to do that.
If I could exclamation point that, yes, arguing them into the kingdom is not the way.
Maybe you have a story, write us, whatever, tell us about that.
Please tell me.
I just know however many of those are, I know a lot more of people who are loved into the kingdom.
Well, and like you said, the current culture, we're becoming more and more isolated. Yet, as humans, whether you're a believer or not, people crave connection.
Yes.
And so what better way to do that than to show hospitality?
Absolutely. I don't have the stats in front of me, but it seems that all the statistics are saying that we are at some of the loneliest points in human history, even though we're more connected than ever. we are actually alone. So Sherry Turkle, sociologist, she has a book called Alone Together. We are more together in a sense than ever. We can be connected. We can text and social media and all those things, but we're alone. We're lonely. I remember a few years ago, it made news that England brought on a minister of loneliness to try to cure this problem, to try to figure this out. So we're lonely. People are looking for connection. COVID only amplified that.
Yes.
And so when we're talking mission, what an opportunity, right?
Yes.
You can go out and there's plenty of there's plenty of other ways to do mission. But for me, at least, what I'm seeing in our current cultural moment, there's not going to be many more effective than this. And here's the thing. It's an ancient practice because Jesus did it. That was
right.
That's what he did. Jesus went around and Zacchaeus. Okay, he didn't argue him into the kingdom. He welcomed him in. Actually, he welcomed him in at Zacchaeus' own house because Jesus was homeless. But he welcomed him in, and we see this change in Zacchaeus. And that's what we're doing. We're representing Jesus in that. So.
Yeah. Well, and I think everybody's looking for a safe place to be known, and at home, is the best place.
Absolutely. Yep. Well, you want to go to how we do it? You want to get practical?
I think we need to get practical because that's really where the rubber meets the road, as they say. And I think for practicality, as a woman, you and I was talking about this a little bit before. I think sometimes hospitality can either seem daunting or scary, or like you said, I'm not Martha Stewart. That probably ages me. Whoever the up and coming premier entertainer.
She's still cool.
Okay,
her and Snoop Dogg are hanging
right.
out.
They're hanging out, and she's still got her hospitality game strong. But I think for the females, if you're worried is my living room painted the perfect shade of whatever color, and my china, because Crate and Barrel, so you have all of these aesthetic concerns, and I'm not a good cook. Whatever, I'm an introvert. I think to understand the practicality of it, when people feel welcomed into your home, no matter what, you may be serving them on a paper plate. Some of my best meals have been on paper plates.
Yeah.
That's the practicality side
Absolutely.
to me of hospitality.
Yep, and that's good. So let me just say the best resource for this that I think I've found is The Gospel Comes with a House Key by Rosaria Butterfield. And it's have you read that one?
It's on my list, but I keep hearing you've got to read this book.
Every time I come on here, I'm just giving you 5 books to read.
Jake gives me a reading list, and I'm working through it.
But this one is good because it brings all this together. Because Rosaria's story, just really short, is that she was not a Christian until much later in life, actually very opposed to Christianity. Became a Christian because of the hospitality of a pastor and his wife, I think in their 70s at that point, who invited her in. And now she's practicing that, but she really harps on, she just invites people into her life. She has kids, and so she says they come in and they expect to help her with the laundry. She has a few simple meals that she makes. She's not going to have it, I'm sure her house isn't disgusting or whatever, but she's not worried. It's inviting people in.
You just need to understand real life is lived in this home, and I want you to be a part of that life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then, I think in your home, so that's practically, obviously, I think that's where our mind goes. Hospitality in your home. It's opening your home up to people, right? It is having an open door to allow them to come in. And so that's, you don't put the pressure on you that you just talked about that you were feeling. The other thing is, you may be saying, well, I don't have a home, right? So Jesus didn't have a home.
Didn't either, right?
Maybe you're a college student and you're like, I have a dorm room, or, whatever, or you live with your parents, or there's just plenty of things that you could respond. You don't have a home or a nice enough home or whatever. The big thing, I think, hospitality, loving the stranger, it's inviting someone into the place where you find comfort, right? That place that you go as a refuge. It's inviting people into that. And so, you could find refuge at a coffee shop. You could find refuge at at a park. There's a few places that I run away to like, to go. And then sometimes I'll invite people like, hey, come, let's go talk there. And there's a sense in which like that's hospitality too. I'm inviting them into my safe place and allowing them to experience that. Yeah. So it is, if you have a home, it's opening that up. But if you don't have a home, it's finding those other places.
Well, and I'll be honest, some of the best conversations I've had have literally been in my car. Mm-hmm. I'm driving somewhere with somebody, maybe to get the cup of coffee or dinner, or just saying, hey, let's just, of course, gas prices weren't $5 a gallon at that point. But, it was that let's just take a ride and talk about this.
Yep, that's exactly right. And again, Jesus and Zacchaeus, Jesus is hospitable to Zacchaeus in his own home. Mm-hmm. And so obviously, right, like it's love of the stranger. And so if you're loving the stranger, then you're being, in a sense, hospitable, right? So that's one practical way to do it. Another one, I have two more, then I want you to add any more that you have. But one I'll mention is just hospitality in the church, because we've talked about, okay, this is a mission opportunity, but there's also some strange people in the church, especially in a church our size, where you can't know everyone. So it's intentionally coming in and seeking people you don't know.
Right.
It's having an eye out for the people who show up who are new, who seem disconnected. Right. That's huge.
That is huge.
We need to come. If Christians were called to hospitality, when we come on Sunday morning, we need to come in a mode, in an attitude of hospitality.
Right. Who can I meet that I don't know?
Absolutely. And it's because it's so easy. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with this, but it's so easy to come on a Sunday and be like, oh, there's my people. Right. There's my community group. There's whatever. We're gonna sit together and hang out together.
There's my seat where I sit every Sunday.
Absolutely. I'm gonna talk to the same people, whatever. But how amazing would it be if every member and attender of West Park came in on a Sunday morning and said, let's look out for the stranger, right? Let's find the stranger. Where like when someone walks in, they're just like, these people are so friendly.
Right.
And what they're experiencing in that moment is Jesus, right? Yeah. So it's looking out for that person. I would even, I've been thinking about this. This is a challenging thing to me. It's to love the stranger. One of the best things you can do is to actually listen to them, which I'm not good at this. The Lord's been convicting me of this. When someone is talking, I'm half listening and half thinking about what I'm going to say back to sound smart. But I think hospitality means meeting the stranger, loving the stranger, listening to the stranger.
Right.
What a way to show someone their love, to listen to them. That's what an opportunity.
Well, because again, that is countercultural.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
There's just always this noise, and we talked about this in Sabbath, in silence and solitude. Noise. But to have somebody listen to you, and it breaks down that wall and helps them share who they really are and build that relationship that is a gospel relationship.
Yeah. I was reading something today that, even when we talk about, so in hospitality, if you're going to share the gospel, I was reading something today, it was Dallas Willard, and he talks about we actually overvalue speaking in our witnessing. He says actually when we think about witnessing and evangelism, we only think about what we're going to say. He said by far the most important thing is listening, like actually listening to the person who is talking to you and responding to what they're actually saying, right?
Not planning out your next point.
Exactly. And then
but we're all guilty of that.
Oh, absolutely. Because we're selfish sinners, right? Like, we are, Augustine used to say in Latin as Christians, we are incurvatus in se, which means we are curved in on ourselves. Oh. That's what sin does to us. We are, you can picture that, right?
Yeah.
We're curved in. And so we are all about me, be. Or so I'm thinking of the Nemo, Finding Nemo, see, mine. Like that is us.
Yeah.
We're about me. And so hospitality is, no, I'm not incurvatus in se, I'm about you. I don't know what the Latin is, but I'm outcurvatus.
You could make
outcurvatus in se.
Howdy.
I don't know.
You can make it up. Most people aren't going to know.
No. So outcurvatus. I'm outcurvatus.
I'm outcurvatus.
I'm thinking about you. I'm putting you above myself in that moment. So that's hospitality. So I said in the home, doing that in the church. And then here's one other thing, just an encouragement. You don't have to do this alone. Right. So that's really intimidating. If it's like, go out and be hospitable, maybe it's alone, but like do it with others.
Right.
So your community group here at West Park is an amazing way to do this.
Yeah.
Like inviting people in. So my community group meets at my home. It's amazing because we've had, most of these people who are in our group, and then we've multiplied into other groups, they originally came to my house and I didn't know them. And that would be really intimidating if I was just inviting them over. But they were coming over with a bunch of other people. So I knew that I am an introvert. Like I am as introverted as they come. And so that scares me to death, even in my own house, to think of.
I have to entertain all these people.
Exactly. But thankfully there was other people there participating with me. So in your community group, what an opportunity to practice hospitality together.
Well, it's a great picture of the body of Christ.
Yes.
We all are good at different things. We have different strengths and weaknesses, and we together make a great body.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So and that is a really good point because and too, just if you're it relieves pressure on lots of levels. But you get to grow in ministry and relationship, and not only do you get to know the person that you're showing hospitality to, but it deepens that bond of the person that you're sharing that with, that ministry with.
Absolutely. And that's just an encouragement to community groups. We've been at this for probably about a year and a half now. And so if your group is like what I can't speak for the rest of my group, but what I'm experiencing now is, we've grown and we've multiplied once, but then now I have this group around me that like I really like, and we're really, kind of vibing, and it's just really good. And there's this sense in me where I'm like, I don't want to mess with the group dynamic, right? Like I don't want to mess with this. I think hospitality is where, our elders have made the decision that we're going to value hospitality. I think that's a good concern actually, to not mess with the group dynamic. And you have to kind of pick and choose some, but like we're saying hospitality is important. It's a great opportunity to be able to do it with our community group.
Right.
And so we are going to be open to others, welcoming them in, always having that posture. And that's a challenge. It's not easy.
It is, especially as you grow in your community group, and especially if you start with a group and there are people that you don't know, and you build that relationship, and then you feel like, oh, now I can really, really share with them. And then you bring somebody else in, and you're like, oh, but it is what we're called to do.
Yeah. And I get that. And let me just say, there's books written about why that's the way you should do community groups. You should keep them closed for that. And I sometimes go back and forth. I get it. But I'll give you my testimony here. Something that I've seen is I am naturally not, I don't think, a hospitable person. Like just my natural bent is not to. I think I'm a nice person. I think I'm a kind person. But loving the stranger and welcoming them in doesn't come natural to me at all. But being in a community group where that has always been a key component, we've said that from the get-go. We are going to be hospitable.
This is what we'll do.
God has used that to change me. I'm not perfect, at all, but I am much more open because I've had these people around me to support me. I knew when they walk in, it's not just going to be me. They're going to meet Catherine and David and Chris and Lindsay and Mike and Katie and, go down the list. Didn't name everyone in my group, so don't get, but love you all.
If he left you out, he's sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. But it's changed me because, I'm more confident in that now because I have these others to do it with.
Yeah.
And so that's key.
Well, it's part of your sanctification.
Absolutely.
As you're growing in sanctification. That's awesome. Well, and I think, too, as we are coming up on the holidays, that's a really good time to show hospitality. Yeah. Not patting myself on the back, not that at all. But what we try to do at Thanksgiving is if we know somebody that doesn't have a place to go or their family is all out of town, we try to, and that stretched me at first because it was very much a family, this is a family holiday, this is, when we do that. And so that has been a stretch, but now over the years, I've seen that not only is it a blessing to me, but it's a blessing to them. Yeah. And you build those relationships, and it means a lot to to those people that you ask if they don't have anywhere to go or anything to do?
Well, I'll say this. I mentioned this in a sermon one time, but I've been on the other side of that. We moved to Austin in 2018 and moved December 3rd. And so we got down there, didn't really know anyone, and then we weren't going to come back for Christmas because like we just got down there. And the senior pastor of our church, and I mean, it's a church of 10,000 people. Senior pastor of our church was like, hey, like I just, hey, God put you on my heart because I brought you down here right before Christmas. And like, would it be a blessing to you for you and Allie, at this point we didn't have kids, to just come over to our house for breakfast on Christmas? And I said, yeah, sure. And so we literally went over there, got there, ate breakfast with them. I think we were there for 2 hours. Left, went and did our own thing, and it changed everything.
Yeah.
Like, because we felt so alone as our family is FaceTiming us as they're doing all the traditions that we love and everything. We felt so alone, but what that reminded us of was we're not alone.
Right.
Yeah, he invited us in to his family's traditions and reminded us, no, you're not alone. You're not alone.
Well, and I bet that is one thing that helps you, encourages you towards hospitality.
Because I've experienced it.
Because you've experienced it.
And so I'll just do this. Let me give, if you're listening, if you've made it this far, a couple homework assignments. Number one, read Rosaria Butterfield. Yes. Gospel Comes with a House Key. I promise, it's good. Get the audiobook. It's good as well. I've done that, and that's an easy way to read it. Read that. The other thing I'd say is start small. Mm-hmm. And if you have a community group, bring this up with your community group. I hope you do have a community group if you're at West Park. Bring this up with them. Talk about what this looks like. But just thinking about you and your family, start with what you just talked about, right? Okay, holidays are coming up. Who could we invite over for Thanksgiving dinner? Who's that neighbor that we just say hey to,
halfway
but we talk about the same things every time. Have they ever been invited into our home? That's a challenging one, right? But there's an opportunity there.
Right.
God has put an opportunity in front of you to be hospitable. I promise you that.
And
Take
just
some time
like
to
your
consider
Christmas, it doesn't have to be the big. I'm not inviting you to my Christmas gift opening and buying you.
Yeah.
To have breakfast.
Yes.
To
it was literally
a portion of it.
Yeah, we knew. Yeah, we literally knew. That's like we came in with the plan, like, hey, when they start doing like presents and when they move past, we're gonna say we're gonna get out of there, let them do their family thing. Like I think that's important.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't have kicked us out. But it was just the fact that like we were there just for a little while, invited in to a warm home. I don't remember, and you know what? I don't remember anything about the home. Like I don't remember how I don't remember the decorations or even what we ate.
I remember the china.
I don't remember any of that. Absolutely, but I remember. Wow, like Pastor Matt invited me in, and that was awesome. Yeah. And it sustained us until So
just starting out small. I like
hospitality
that part of the homework. Any more homework?
I think I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah. Be hospitable.
There it is, the bottom line. Just be hospitable. No, I think this has been a great conversation about hospitality. And I think it's one of those things that if you don't have a regular rhythm of hospitality, once you start, once you do your homework and once you start trying that on a regular basis, even if you're an introvert like Jake, I think you will start to enjoy that and look forward to those times. And the Lord will bless you in that.
Absolutely.
It'll be great. But it's been a great conversation, I think.
Thank you. Always is.
It always is. I always look forward to these conversations that we have, and I'm glad that we have many more planned. But thanks for being here today, Jake.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thank you for listening to Impact the World. To find out more about West Park Baptist Church in Knoxville, Tennessee, visit westparkbaptist.org.